YouTube, what's going on? We're back with another video, and today I am going over what I believe should be the characters everyone should be building from a meta perspective, in my opinion. And realistically, every character can work, but you don't want to spread your resources way too thin. But before we get into the characters that you should be building, one thing I think we should cover directly is team building in this game. So it's really simple, and this is a horrible team, for example. This is my open world team. It is not good. We'll explain why in a moment. But when you're building any team in Wuthering Waves, it's very simple in the fact that it's not like Genshin and it's not like Star Rail where the supports are the main factor of your build. You can have a great DPS on the team, let's say someone like Tartaglia, who is a pretty valid DPS, but without the proper supports, he's nothing. He can't do anything. This game is actually more centered around your DPSs, since there's really not that many supports or healers in the game. So let's talk about this. Your first slot, you're really looking from sort of DPS, because this is obviously going to be your on-field damage dealer. So we'll throw Calcharo in here as example.
You want me to join you in person?
Shut the fuck up. Then for your second slot, you want some sort of sub DPS, whether they're going to do off-field damage, CC, whatever the case may be. You could throw someone in here like YangYang. The Skylar sounds is and then your third one, you really only have two genuine supports in the game, is Verina or Baizhu. And Baizhu is free to play. You get her off rip in your first wish. We'll throw Baizhu in here just for an example. And this is how it's going to work. You want to have your main DPS on field. Your sub DPS is going to obviously swap out when you need to kind of give the main DPS a little bit of a buff. In this case, Calcharo is on field doing his crazy damage. YangYang is going to not only be providing CC for Calcharo, but funneling energy into Calcharo's Resonance Liberation when she uses her outro skill. And Baizhu's just here so nobody dies. You know, Baizhu is really good at just sustaining the team. I mean, simply all you have to do if you are dying, actually, I will throw Danjin here because Danjin takes her health away just by herself. I'm going to E a few times, right? So, you know, and then we healed. It was a little laggy there, but their health is up. It's really it. Again, and then YangYang would obviously funnel, you know, with her intro, outro, etc. So that is the basis of team building. Now, as time goes on, and we get more supports in the game and not just literally two healers, I could see the team comps getting a little bit more support heavy. But even then, I really think the main focus is always going to be DPS and sub DPS. Now, let's say you put Verina here. Instead, you want to throw another main DPS here like Jiyan, and then you want to throw someone like Mortefi. Mortefi, as I've stated previously, is, if you played Genshin Impact, he's literally Pyro Zincho. So Jiyan's going to do a bunch of damage. He even has his own CC built in with his ultimate. You swap to Mortefi and you do his ultimate, which will give you extra damage on your each hit, because each hit will then have pyro damage, but also his outro skill will buff Jiyan. And then Verina's a healer, and Verina buffs the fuck out of everyone as well. Just Verina's amazing. So why is this a bad team? We have a main DPS here. We have an unbuilt YangYang who really isn't doing anything other than funneling, and Danjin, who is a DPS. She could also be a sub DPS. We're going to cover her kit in a little bit, but I have no sustain here. I consistently die in this team. I really do. Like, I just die all the time because she dies, and then his pairing is a little hard, and Danjin eats up her own health. So this is a horrendous team. This is something you should not follow. This is an example of a bad team. That's the basis of team building. It's important to understand that, so that way now you know, okay, who do I want to fit these roles? Now let's go over kits. Let's actually break down some of these characters that I think you should be building and why you should be building. So starting off with DPSs, I would say prioritize really whatever DPS you have. You will start off with Chixia. I personally do not like this character. They're just not for me. They're not my favorite. But if you enjoy this character and they're going to be your main DPS, that is fine. You know, when they level up over here, the Forte Circuit talent tree, this is where they're going to get their main big passive. The max thermotic bullets is increased by 10 rounds. The damage of resonance skill boom boom is increased by 50. So she gets a massive increase in her Forte Circuit by 10 bullets, but then the damage is up by 50. So it's pretty sick. And then she's also getting the thermatic bullets that hits a target during resonance skill Daka, increase attack by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 30 times. So she can get some very good damage out there, and she's free. So it's not a bad option. It's not my first option, just for the fact that you really can't parry with them. And I feel like swapping out to parry with your main DPS is a little annoying, and you're going to have to keep your distance from the bosses, but it's an option. And if you build that, that is valid. The next character I would really personally look at as a main DPS, and obviously this depends depends on what you picked with your gacha, who you got on your standard, who didn't go on your standard, is Calcharo. This homie is very good. He is slow. There is a little bit of a learning curve when you're playing with someone like him, as opposed to even Jiyan, who has faster attacks. Jiyan's attacks are slow, but he's a very good DPS. So let's go over what he does. Calcharo, his Forte circuit, he has 3 lines here. In order to gain stuff in his Forte circuit, you have to hit your E. Now, it is a little bit of a timing thing. You have to time your E right, and once you hold down the heavy attack button, he does extra damage with that. So pretty straightforward in terms of the Forte circuit. It really is just a timing mechanic. Now, I parried there. That's actually bullshit. There's no way I really parried that, but... And then, again, throw that in. Bam. His outro skill is pretty good as well. It's just more DPS. He's just leaving more DPS on the field for you, you know, as you saw right there. We did a few little bit of extra damage numbers while he wasn't on screen. And now his ultimate is pretty straightforward, honestly. It's nothing too crazy. We're going to get his Resonance Liberation here. So now we have the Resonance Liberation. I'm going to activate this. Now, in order for you to get the stacks, you just simply have to hit normal attacks on the enemy. So you hit normal attacks, and then let's see if we can get to 5 stacks. And then you do another charge attack, and bam, even more damage. So that's pretty much like the basis of his kit. The problem where he gets a little complicated, or I guess not as, a little bit more tough, is his parrying. So I'm going to show you right here. His parrying style, like I said, is very slow. So you have to get the timing right. Or if you don't, you'll die like that. I didn't get the timing right there. So his parrying can be a little rough. But the good thing about it is his Forte circuit upgrade is pretty valid. So when casting heavy attack Mercy, Calcharo's Resonance Liberation damage bonus is increased by 10% for 15 seconds. So you're getting a buff to his ult damage, as well as when heavy attack Death Messenger hits the target, damage taken by Calcharo is reduced for 15% for 5 seconds. So he's getting a buff to his burst, but he's also getting damage reduction, and he does get built-in crit damage with his kit, which is always nice as well. So that's very good. Calcharo teams, I mean, we went over it previously, but just quickly, you know, again, ideal team you're looking at is something right now like Mortefi, Verina. These two are really going to be tied together for, I think, a very long time for a lot of main DPSs. Sidebar. So these two, if you have them, build them. They're going to go with pretty much almost every single character that is a DPS in this game, period. Once Yinlin comes out, Mortefi can be replaced with Yinlin, or, you know, you can even run something like Yuanwu and Verina in the interim, you know, for the double electro. The other 2 DPSs are Encore and Lingyang. I don't have these 2 as of yet. I know Encore is very good. She's very strong. The only problem is I know that with her parrying, she can only parry in her ultimate mode, unless if you jumped and did a plunging attack, not in her ultimate mode. But her kit seems to be pretty good as well. You know, she has fusion damage bonus here. Then during her Resonance Liberation, Encore's HP is above 70%. Damage dealt is increased by 10, and the resonance skill Flaming Woolies or resonance skill Cosmos Rampage is cast. Encore's fusion damage bonus increased by 10% for 10 seconds. So you're just looking at a bunch more damage. Good character. Again, I really think, again, the baseline supports are going to be Mortefi, Verina. Verina, we'll get to those after. And then now Lingyang is not bad anymore. They did buff Lingyang. Lingyang is pretty good. He's getting glacial damage from his 2 passives over here, and then his intro skill gives is increased by 50%. His intro skill is not that bad. Lingyang enters the battlefield dealing glacial damage, and then his other passive is going to be once he's in the Striding Lion state, which is this, his burst. Within 3 seconds after each basic attack, the next Mountain Roamer will deal an additional glacial damage equal to 150% of Mountain Roamer's damage, considered as resonance skill damage. Translation, you're doing even more damage. With Lingyang, I would assume you'd probably run things like Sanhua, or, you know, maybe some other type of glacial combo, but Sanhua, Baizhu. If you got them, build them. You know, you need a main DPS. You really need a main DPS. That's really the important of it. Now, obviously, the next character that I personally have is Jiyan. Jiyan is the best DPS in the game as of now. I actually dropped a full in-depth guide on Jiyan. If you want to go check that out, it goes over his echoes, the best substats, etc., his weapons, etc., etc. Jiyan's amazing, man. Jiyan's an arrow character. He gives himself his own CC, and he does give himself crit rate, which is a massive W because crit rate is so rare in this game. I mean, as you can see, you start off with 5 crit rate, and 150 crit damage. So you really want to lock in on these crit rate substats. So that really helps a lot. And then his fortes are going to give him, after casting the intro skill Tactical Strike, Jiyan's attack is increased by 10 seconds for 15 seconds. Combining this with a bunch of other character buffs, which we'll go over into a minute, not only will Jiyan be getting a buff from, let's say, Verina's intro skill, he's then going to even be buffing his own self with the intro skill, getting even more damage. And then the next one is pretty cracked as well. When Jiyan's attack hit a target, Jiyan's crit damage increased by 12 seconds for 8%. Bro, this dude is killing it. He's doing great. Jiyan's gameplay is very simple. Just a quick showcase. You know, you get your Forte Circuit at halfway or full. He's going to do extra damage with his E. Or once it's halfway or full, he does a burst. And when his burst, you do his Resonance Liberation. It actually does extra damage. I'll show you right now. It's going to do an extra animation that provides more damage. So let's get this up real quick. And then watch this. Bam. You do this extra attack. If Jiyan's Forte Circuit is not halfway or full, you will not get that extra attack. They're killing me right now. And then obviously this is his CC. He just sucks the enemy up himself. Again, what is the best team? Wow, what is going to be a surprise? It's going to be Jiyan, it's going to be Mortefi, and it is going to be Verina. We'll get to these in a moment. But these are just genuinely great teams. The rotations for this is even simple. If you see, look, the next character on field gains 38% heavy attack damage percent. Mortefi, Jiyan's ultimate transfers all of his normal attacks into heavy attack damage, which is perfect. Verina heals next character by 19% of her attack per second for 6 seconds, and all characters on nearby team gain 50% all type damage deepened for 30 seconds, which is another type of damage debuff. So they're both funneling into him. And this is why this two is going to be a goated combination. Also with his sub DPS, his ult is amazing. Now, the last DPS I wanted to go over, and this one is tricky, is Danjin. Danjin is my favorite character in this game. I have the most fun with Danjin. I think she's amazing. She's a great unit, but she is very high risk, but high reward, bro. So how Danjin works is pretty simple. You watch any of my other Wuthering Waves video, I use Danjin as an example in all of them. Danjin is going to use her E. That's an echo. Danjin's going to use her E, and it drains her health, but if you can see here, it is giving her some Forte Circuit energy. When her Forte Circuit energy is full, you could charge attack, and it heals you, but it also gives you more damage. Now, you want to try to get her damage as low as possible, just because she does the most damage when she's closer to death. So, you know, you want to try to do that. So we're going to just, like, keep getting that down, and then bam, you'll see the healings. So the lowest she'll go right now, I think it's like 10% of her health, and then bam, it does a pretty decent amount of healing. This is also C0. I do have her C6. I'll be doing a C6 guy later. She is hard. You have to be good to play with her, and that's why I'm using her, because I'm trying to get good. But she's really sick. We're looking at her kit real quick. She scales with havoc damage, you know, so you get that damage bonus. Her inherent skill is damage of resonance skill, Crimson Erosion, triggered by dodge counter, Ruby Shades. It's increased by 20%. The HP cost and stacks of Ruby Blossom recovered are doubled, which is sick. We love that. That way you're not dying as much, although I'll probably find a way to lose, you know, the vibes. And then the final one is after casting the resonance skill, Sanguine Pulse, Danjin's heavy attack damage will be increased by 30% for 5 seconds. So that's perfect because you're casting the resonance skill right to get your bar full anyways before you do the heavy attack. So you're guaranteed to hit a heavy attack with an extra 30% damage buff. So this is great. Again, if we're looking team comp wise, you know, listen, man, this is just such a goated combo. This doesn't work for every single team. Well, let me rephrase that. This could work for every single team, and I recommend building these two as soon as possible. We're gonna get into their kits as soon as possible, but this is my go-to standard. Again, you know what happens. You're gonna get the heavy attack damage, which is perfect for Danjin. Danjin is going to multiply off of that heavy attack damage, and Verina is giving these skills, but also some healing as well. Now, obviously, you don't want too much healing because you want Danjin to be low, but if you can get your timings right, hypothetically, you should be able to still have low health with Danjin, but also get this heavy attack damage and pop off with her Forte Circuit. Amazing. I would recommend if you really want a challenge. That's the main spots for the DPSs, man. You know, I mean, you could run Rover. You could make Rover a DPS if you really want to. You could really make anyone work. But those are the main DPSs. The ones that I recommend building are Jiyan, Calcharo, Danjin, Encore and Lingyang. They both work. Encore is not my cup of tea. And Lingyang is very combo heavy. So those two to me are on the lowest of the tiers. but they still work. And Chixia, it's in my opinion is on the bottom of the bottom. Now we're going into sub DPS role. Wow, look who's on screen, Mortefi. Let's break down his kit a little bit more. Why do you want to build Mortefi? If you haven't noticed yet, this dude works with 1 million people. He works with 1 million people, bro. So quickly, he's a gun user. He is going to be getting fusion damage with these level ups here. And his inherent skills are going to be after casting resonance skill, passionate variation. The damage of resonance skill, fury fuge is increased by 25%. It's cool. You know, he's not really here to be on field for that long. He's really here just to get the buffs for your main DPS. So, but this is a nice little upgrade. And during Resonance Liberation Burning Rhapsody, each hit of Resonance Liberation Mercado will increase the damage of the next Resonance Liberation Mercado by 1.5%, which can be triggered once every 0.35 seconds, stacking up to 50 times. This effect will be reset after the Resonance Liberation Burning Rhapsody ends. That is so broken because his Resonance Liberation gives him this little buff, again, like Xingqiu, when on the field, every normal attack, every heavy attack, does these coordinated attacks with him. So let's look at this so you can see. I'm gonna go back into the trial. So we're gonna get his skill here. We're gonna get his burst real quick. So that's his resonance skill, you know, with the Forte Circuit. You get the Forte Circuit up all the way, and then you cast your E, you get more damage, as we'll see. Ah! They hit me when I did that. That's fucked up. All right, so now, bam, I'm gonna cast his Resonance Liberation. We're gonna swap to YangYang, and you're gonna see every attack is doing some sort of coordinated attacks with them. So you're seeing the 2 damage numbers. You're seeing the 2 colors, the arrow and that. So when you unlock that next max passive, you know, that's a pretty big buff. Like, that's a substantially big buff. On top of the fact that, as we saw, his outro skill is buffing the next person's heavy attack damage by 30+%. So this is one of the best options in the game. If you have him, build him. There's no reason to not build him. By 38% was the exact percent number. So amazing sub DPS. You cannot go wrong with him. Now, going over a few other sub DPSs that are genuinely amazing as well. One being YangYang. Well, wow, surprised. Free to play character, works amazing. They're getting their arrow damage increase over here. YangYang recovers 30 stamina after casts a mid-air attack. That one's kind of whatever. It's really nothing too special. YangYang's arrow damage bonus is increased by 8% for 8 seconds after casting her intro skill. These are really not that great. I'm not gonna lie to you. They're not the worst thing ever, but they're not the best thing ever. You know, the stamina could come into play if you're running out of stamina and you're not being able to dodge and in like combat. So like I could see that being situational, but we're not really on fielding her. This is the reason why we're using YangYang. YangYang recovers 4 resonance energy per second over 5 seconds for the next character on screen. So if I were to pull out YangYang right now, Calcharo has no resonance liberation at all. We get the Concerto energy. Bam. Now we're going to swap to Calcharo. And look, I'm not doing anything and it's still going up. That's a pretty decent funnel. You know, that is not bad. So obviously when you coordinate this with some more attacks and ability usage and whatnot, you're going to get even more energy. So, and then also her skill, her burst, if we look here, CC. You know, she's valid. Great unit. Again, CC. It's not as much CC as someone like Jiyan, which we'll get to in a bit. I compare her more to like the Genshin players. She's like the Sucrose, and the other one's like Venti/Kazuha. But again, solid, works, you know, works in a plethora of team comps. Honestly, not this. This is a bad team comp. You know, you're running Calcharo, you want to run Baizhu, and you want to run, you know, super free to play. Let's say you don't have Mortefi. Let's say you didn't even pull on the Jiyan banner. You could throw YangYang here instead. You could throw Encore here instead. If you wanted to, you could throw Chixia here instead. These two are a staple of the game. We'll get to Baizhu once we get to the healers. The healer section would be the least important, or the healer section is only 2. But overall, very good unit. Now, for the sub DPSs, another one that I would highly recommend is going to be Yuanwu. Yuanwu is very good. It's very, very good. Yuanwu gets the electro damage bonus. He is then also the damage multiplier of resonance skill Thundering Uprise increased by 40%, and its depletion of enemy vibration strength is enhanced. So Yuanwu's skill is very simple. He throws down this little fucking brick on the floor. I'll show you real quick. He's gonna throw this down on the floor. and bam, there's going to be a radius of how long it'll go, how big it'll go. Yep, and then it'll just do consistent AoE damage similar to Fischl. You swap out to whoever your main DPS would be, and you know, that way you have the electro damage on top of whatever you're working with. So he's very good. You also get him free just by completing the Abyss. You have to complete a certain amount of floors in the Abyss, and you get him. Now, then his second passive is the ranges of the resonant skill Thundering Field and Thunder Uprising are greatly expanded. When exiting during combat, if readiness is not full, Yuanwu will automatically leave one resonant skill Thundering Wedge in place. Not only are you getting a wider AoE, but then you have the potential to leave one on field, which is amazing. His outro skill unleashes thunderbolts in the area centered around the skill target, weakens the vibration strength of enemies upon impact, and his intro skill is just doing electro damage. So nothing too crazy on these. These are pretty solid, but the main thing you're really looking for is his skill usage and trying to get to this, because this will really help the AoE of it. But again, who does he work with? He could work with Calcharo, he could work with Yinlin, he could work with really anyone you want. I think the great thing about this game is as long as you follow the DPS, sub DPS healer thing, you could really make any team work. Although not all the synergies will be the best, it can work. Now, the thing about Danjin is I love Danjin, but Danjin has the potential to be a sub DPS as well. Let me explain. So if you don't want to utilize Danjin the way I would, making her a main DPS and consistently living on the edge, well, you know, like living on a prayer and shit, the intro skill, the outro skill is very good. The next character or other characters on a nearby team that activates an outro skill gains 23% havoc damage deepen for 14 seconds until they are switched off the field. So they are getting a 23% damage buff against the enemies with the outro skill. So, you know, most DPSs don't buff the next character that is coming on field. Jiyan's not doing that. Calcharo's not doing that. But Danjin can work in this sub DPS role. I don't even know. Do we have other Havoc characters? Oh, we have Taoqi. Well, not. Yeah, I guess that's not bad. But you could run her as a sub DPS. But yeah, I personally want to run her this way. That's not how I like to play her, but it is a possibility. Now, there is a team that you can run her with, but I don't want to mention anything because of spoilers, story spoilers. So I will say there's options. There's options. All I'm going to say. You want to find out, beat the story. I personally, the two characters I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate for not recommending building is going to be Taoqi. And I'm not going to say I wouldn't necessarily recommend building Jiyan because I think you should be building Jiyan. But I don't like Taoqi personally. So Taoqi is a shielder, counter parry like Baizhu if you've played Genshin Impact. It's just not for me. But also, realistically, the thing with this game is it's similar to Elden Ring, it's similar to the Souls series, or any really hard game like that. You're just going to get one shot in the end game content. Like once you get to the point where the game gets that hard, whether you have a shield or no shield, it really isn't the greatest thing ever. We'll break down her kit though. So she does get these Havoc Ascension passives. And then during the duration of her resonant skill, Rocksteady Shield, the character's defense is increased by 15%. And then after heavy attack, strategic parry is successfully triggered, 25 stamina is recovered. But yeah, I don't feel the need to build her. Now, Jiyan is good. A very, very good character with very good CC. Just the problem is, A, how much do you really need CC? And B, how much is that shielding really going to be helping you? So, I'll break it down. She's going to be getting crit rate, which is nice. You know, crit rate's always good. Her skill puts her in a parry stance, and her Forte Circuit, once you have her Forte Circuit built up, so you need to do normal attacks to get her Forte Circuit. You build it up and you do this like thing, and you pretty much generate a shield over yourself. The problem with generating her shield is the time it takes to do so. Look at this. This is the problem that I'm talking about. I know she gets some sort of interruption resistance when you're doing this, but that is a very, very, very long time to shield a character. And that point, I don't think you're going to have the time to do that if you're fighting a hologram boss, if you're in the Abyss. The only thing I think she's really useful for is the CC option, which is her ult, the suck. Not a bad unit, but it would definitely be on my priority list of characters to build. Above Taoqi, obviously, especially because of the CC. But we'll look into the intro outro. So intro skill pulls in targets within the range of dealing arrow damage. So again, more CC. And outro, the next character, other character on nearby gains 38% resonance liberation damage deepen for 14 seconds until they switch off the field. So her outro skill is very good. Outro skill is very good as well. But I just think there's better choices here. Damage of Resonance Liberation, Purification Force Fields increased by 20%, and the shield obtained with heavy attacks Primordial Chi Spiral is increased by 20. You know, I just don't think it's as impressive as some other sub DPSs in the game. Now, Sanhua is a very, very good sub DPS. Sanhua is amazing, and everyone gets it for free. You log in 5 days. Sanhua is pretty simple, you know, so she's gonna be getting the glacial damage, which is great. Her resonance skill throws down this little like glacier thing. I mean, it's pretty sick. Her burst deals more glacial damage. Her forte circuit's like a little bit of like a mini game. It's a timing thing. If you can get the timing down right, she does even more damage. Her intro skill, she just comes down, deals glacial damage. Her outro skill is what really helps her in the sub DPS category a lot. The next character gains 38% basic attack damage deepen for 14 seconds or until they're switched off the field. And the boost is damage dealt with Sanhua's resonance skills increased by 20% for 8 seconds after casting her intro skill. So they're rewarding you to get in there, do her intro skill, do her actual skill, then you get that massive damage buff, and then hopefully by that time you get your Concerno energy up, or if it's already built, swap out. Bam. So it's just a great burst of damage. And then also damage dealt by Sanhua's Forte Circuit. Ice Burst increased by 20% for 8 seconds after casting Basic Attack 5. She is a little combo heavy, and there is a little bit of a timing thing on her Forte Circuit, but if you're good, she's great. She's great. She's absolutely a great sub DPS unit. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know a lot about Alto. I haven't really tested him a bunch. I don't want to sit here and tell you something wrong or what works and what doesn't work. If you know, let me know, because I really haven't sat down and tested them. But yeah, man, I think sub DPS, we're looking at Mortefi as being possibly the best. I would prioritize Mortefi. I'd prioritize Sanhua. I would prioritize Yuanwu. You could go Jianxin, not my favorite, but it's possible. And you could go Danjin if you want Danjin to be a sub DPS for that one specific team. And obviously YangYang. YangYang should be a top priority. YangYang should 100% be a top priority. Now the healers. There's only 2. And you get one off rip for free to play. Baizhu and Verina. Now, Baizhu is like Verina's little sister. And what I mean by that is this. Going over her kit, she gets her healing bonuses increased. Beautiful. Her intro skill, Baizhu calls Ethin to perform one plunging attack, the little homie, while restoring HP to all team members. So when you swap out to her, you're already getting HP, which is beautiful. We love that. So immediately offer up healing. The outro, Baizhu heals the next character or other characters by 1.54% of max HP every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. The healed characters also gain a 15% all type damage deepen for 6 seconds. So 6 seconds is not a lot of time, although in some cases you might consider it a long time, I'm just saying. But this can work. And again, not only are you getting healing, but you're getting buffing for your on-field character. Now the Forte Circuit buffs. When Baizhu casts Resonant Skill, Energy Emergency Plan, Ethin generates a field of Euphoria that lasts for 15 seconds. An attacker, the Resonator, who picks up the Euphoria is increased by 15% for 20 seconds. Again, just more buffs. And Baizhu's heavy attack heals the team members with the lowest HP by 0.25% of her max HP upon hitting an enemy. You're going to use her heavy attack quite often. Her heavy attack is very spammable, and you can actually move it around. So, W. Baizhu's amazing, man. She's a great healer. If you don't choose Verina, build Baizhu. Build Baizhu. That's it. It's simple. But choose Verina. Choose Verina. They've given you 3 free standard characters. Out of the 3, 1 should be Verina, bro. It has to be Verina. Verina is the best healer and potentially the best buffer in the game. Let's break this down. Intro skill, Verina attacks the target, dealing spectral damage, whatever. She gets her healing bonus, same as Baizhu. Her outro skill, Verina heals the next character by 19% of her attack per second for 6 seconds. And all characters on nearby team gain 15% damage for 30. Instead of a 6% damage buff, you're getting a 30 seconds. 30 seconds opposed to 6 is a lot, bro. That is perfect for on-field DPS to dish out even more damage, and it's not as much of a cramped time style. The passives are pretty good as well. When Verina casts heavy attack, Sarblooms midair, Resonance Liberation, or outro skill, attack for all party members is increased by 20% for 20 seconds. So you're getting even more of an attack buff, and Verina protects a party member from fatal damage, grants a shield that strengthens it to 120% of Verina's attack, lasting for 10 seconds. So realistically, bro, she's the best. This talent, if you play Genshin Impact, it's like C6 Kuki. You can't die with that one character. If a character's about to die on the team and you have this skill active, they will not die. They have that little their last stand type of thing, and you can heal them with Verina. She's amazing. Again, team comps, she's gonna be in there, bro. She and Baizhu are going to be almost irreplaceable. Mortefi, Sanhua, and YangYang, I think, are gonna be the best really sub DPSs, and then the main TPS just depends on who you have and what your play style is. Now, obviously, when Yinlin comes out, Yinlin's going to be an amazing sub DPS that damages characters' elemental bursts as well. So you'll be seeing her in a lot of team comps, even without Calcharo. But overall, man, this is who I think you should be building. This is how I think you should be running your team comps. And let me know what you think. This is my opinion. Mwah. I love you. I'll see you in the next one.